Ethan Cole walked through the giant gates with chains around his wrists. His boots dragged across the polished stone floor as two guards pushed him forward. The hall was silent except for the sound of metal clinking and the echo of his steps. Tall pillars rose high above, holding the roof of the great throne room. Torches burned on each side, their flames dancing in the still air. Soldiers lined the walls, watching every move he made. Could feel their hate, their eyes filled with anger. At the far end of the hall sat the Queen, Isabella Hart, ruler of the strongest kingdom left in this broken world. Her throne was carved from dark stone and stood higher than the steps before it. She wore a silver crown that caught the glow of the torches. Her black cloak flowed across the floor like a shadow. She sat with her head high, her face calm, her eyes cold. To her right and left, advisors and guards waited in silence, their hands ready on the hilts of their blades. Ethan kept his head low as he walked. His body was sore, his lips dry. Days in the dark cell had stolen his strength, but not his pride. He knew why he was here. He was the enemy, the traitor they wanted to make an example of. He heard whispers around him as he stepped closer to the throne. "That is him," one voice said. "The one who fought at the border," another answered. Ethan reached the last step before the throne. The guards pushed him to his knees. His chains clattered against the stone. He raised his eyes and looked at the woman who ruled this land. Her gaze met his. For a long moment, neither spoke. He saw no fear in her eyes, only power and something else he could not name. The Queen's voice broke the silence. It was sharp and clear, echoing through the great hall. "What is your name?" she asked. Ethan took a breath. His throat burned, but he spoke with strength. "Ethan Cole," he said. The hall stayed silent. No one moved. Then something strange happened. The Queen froze for a second. Her fingers gripped the arms of the throne. Her cold mask broke. Her eyes widened as if she had seen a ghost. Slowly, she rose from her seat. Gasps spread across the room. The advisors looked at each other in shock. Duh! Soldiers tightened their grips on their weapons. The Queen never left her throne for a prisoner. Yet here she was, standing, her silver crown shining in the firelight. Ethan did not understand. He stared at her, confused. Why would a ruler like her stand for someone like him? The Queen stepped down the first stair, her gaze fixed on his face. Her voice was softer now, but filled with force. "Say it again," she whispered. "Your name, Ethan Cole," he repeated. A long silence filled the hall. Then she turned to the guards. "Leave us," she ordered. But the guards hesitated. One of them spoke. "My Queen, he is dangerous. You should not leave us," she said again, this time louder. Her tone left no room for doubt. The hall began to empty. Advisors, soldiers, and servants walked out, their faces full of questions they dared not ask. The heavy doors closed behind them with a deep sound that echoed like thunder. Now the hall was empty, except for Ethan and the Queen. She walked closer to him. Her eyes did not leave his face. He saw something in them now. It was not hate. It was something deeper, something old. She stopped a few feet away, looking down at him as if trying to remember a dream from long ago. "Do you know who I am?" she asked. Ethan stared back. "You are the Queen," he said. She gave a small breath that sounded almost like a laugh, but there was pain in it. "Yes," she said. "But you were there before the crown. Do you not remember me?" Ethan looked at her, lost. The question made no sense. He wanted to ask what she meant, but his voice failed him. She spoke again, her tone low and heavy with meaning. "You saved my life once," she said, "and I have never forgotten your voice." The hall was quiet, except for the slow steps of the Queen. She moved closer until Ethan could see the fine lines of her face. Her eyes were not cold now. They held a strange light, as if a memory had returned after many years. Ethan kept his back straight even though his knees burned against the stone. He did not speak. He wanted answers, but he waited. The Queen stopped in front of him. Her voice was calm, but there was a weight in every word. "You do not remember me," she said. Ethan shook his head. "No," he answered. "I have never seen you before." She studied his face for a long time. Then she turned away and walked toward the throne again. Da-da-da. Her cloak dragged across the floor, leaving a dark line behind. When she sat down, her voice rose strong and steady. "Years ago, during the battle at Red Valley, a soldier carried me to safety. I was wounded. The city was burning. I would have died there, but he did not leave me. He fought through the fire and the smoke, and he saved my life." Ethan listened in silence. The name of that place made his chest tighten. Red Valley. The memory came like a shadow. He saw the smoke, the screams, the chaos. He had been young then, just a soldier trying to survive. He remembered carrying someone, but he never saw her face. He only remembered the blood on his hands and the weight in his arms. "That soldier," Isabella said, "was you?" Ethan lowered his eyes for a moment. He could not deny it. It was true. He had carried someone that day, and now she sat before him as queen. He looked up at her again. "Why tell me this now?" he asked. Her gaze was sharp. "Because today, they wanted to kill you. My council sees you as an enemy. They say you are a traitor. But I know you saved me once, and I will not forget that." Ethan felt the weight of her words. Gratitude was rare in times like these, yet her tone was not soft. It was not a plea. It was a command. She was a ruler who did not forget her debts. The heavy doors opened again. A man in armor stepped inside. His voice was hard when he spoke. "My queen, the council demands an answer. The prisoner must die." Isabella's eyes turned to the man, cold and sharp like a blade. "Leave us," she said.
Out.
"But the council leave us," she repeated. The man bowed and stepped back, but his face was dark with anger. The doors closed again. Isabella looked back at Ethan. "Will not accept my choice," she said. "They will fight it." Ethan stared at her. "Then why risk it? Why protect me?" She rose from her throne again, slower this time. She walked down the steps until she stood close to him. Her eyes held his like chains. "Because I owe you my life," she said. "Because this war has already taken too much. I will not let it take the last piece of my honor." For a moment, there was silence. Ethan felt something stir inside him, something he thought was dead. Respect. Not for the crown, but for the woman who wore it. She was not like the stories told about her. She was not just power and iron. There was something real beneath the crown. Her voice broke the silence again. "You will not die here," she said. "But you will not walk free yet. You will stay as my guest." Guest Ethan gave a small bitter smile. He lifted his chained hands. Like this, she looked at the chains. Then she called out and a guard stepped in. "Unlock him," she ordered. The guard froze. "My queen now," she said, her tone like thunder. The guard obeyed, his hands shaking as he freed Ethan's wrists. The chains fell to the floor with a loud clang. Ethan rubbed his sore hands, the skin red and raw. Isabella stepped closer. "Do not mistake this for trust," she said. "You are still a prisoner, but you will stay in the East Wing, not the dungeon. And you will answer my questions." Ethan looked at her. "What do you want to know?" She held his gaze. "Everything," she said. "Why you came here, and what you truly want." Ethan stood in a room far different from the dungeon he had known. The East Wing was quiet and bright, with tall windows that let in the pale light of morning. He sat on the edge of a wooden bed, his hands free, but his heart heavy. Guards still watched from outside the door. He was not free. Not yet. He wondered why he was still alive. A single order from Isabella could have ended him. But she had chosen another path. Hours passed. He heard the sounds of footsteps in the hall, the voices of servants, the clang of metal armor. This was not peace. It was a cage made of gold. He thought about escape, but every time his eyes moved to the windows, he saw the walls beyond and the towers filled with archers. There was no easy way out. The door opened. A woman stepped inside. It was Isabella. She had no crown on her head now.
Oh.
Her dark hair fell around her shoulders. She wore a simple dress, but her presence filled the room like a storm. The guards stayed at the door, but she raised a hand and they stepped back. Ethan stood as she came closer. He kept his voice calm. "You said you had questions." "I do," she answered. She took a chair from the corner and sat across from him. Her eyes never left his face. "Why were you near our borders?" "Why risk capture?" Ethan said nothing for a moment. He thought of the truth and the danger it carried, thought of the men who had trusted him. Finally, he spoke. "I was sent to end this war," he said, "but not with blood." Her eyes narrowed. "What does that mean?" It means there is another way, Ethan said. This war has burned our lands for too long. Every city we take, we lose another. Every victory is another grave. I came to find a way to stop it before there is nothing left for either side. Isabella leaned back in her chair. Her fingers touched the edge of the armrest. You speak like a man who has lost too much. Ethan gave a short breath. I have, he said. He looked out the window at the gray sky. And so have you. Her jaw tightened, but she did not deny it. The silence between them was sharp. Then she spoke again. The council does not trust you. They will use your words against you. They will call you a liar. And you, Ethan asked, do you trust me? She did not answer at once. Her eyes locked on his, searching for something. Finally, she said, I trust what I have seen. Twice you could have let me die. Twice you did not. It is worth something. She stood and walked to the window. Her voice was low now, but worth enough to risk everything. I do not know. The door opened again, and a guard stepped in. He bowed quickly. My queen, the council demands to meet with you. As they say the prisoner is a threat to the realm. Isabella turned. Her voice cut like steel. Tell them the prisoner is under my command. They will do nothing without my word. The guard bowed again and left. When the door closed, Ethan spoke. They will not stop. They will try to take me. Maybe they will try to take you. Her eyes met his. I know, she said. They do not forgive weakness, and they think mercy is weakness. She walked back toward him. Her voice was lower now, like a secret. There are men in these walls who dream of power. If they cannot bend me, they will break me. Ethan felt a cold weight in his chest. Then you are in danger, he said. She gave a thin smile. Danger is the price of the crown, she said. But it is also the reason I need to know if I can trust you. She moved closer, so close he could see the fire in her eyes. If I give you a choice, she said, to leave now or stay and fight beside me, what will you choose? Ethan held her gaze. His heart beat hard in his chest. He thought of the war, the lives lost, the blood on his hands. Then he spoke, steady and clear. I will stay. A shadow of relief crossed her face, but it was gone in an instant. She nodded once. Then you must be ready, she said, because they will come for us both. Night fell over the castle like a black veil. Torches burned along the walls, but their light could not hide the growing shadow of fear inside. Ethan stood near the window of his room, watching the courtyard below. Soldiers moved like ghosts in the dark, their armor catching flashes of firelight. He knew something was coming. The Queen's warning was still in his head. It will come for us both. The door opened without a knock. A guard stepped inside, his face pale. The Queen wants you in the throne room, he said. His voice was tight, like a man holding back panic. Ethan followed quickly. The halls were empty now, the silence broken only by the sound of boots on stone. When he reached the great doors of the throne room, he saw Isabella standing at the center of the hall, surrounded by a few loyal guards. Her cloak was gone. She wore armor of black steel, a sword in her hand. Her eyes were sharp and cold. They are moving, she said as Ethan stepped closer. The council has turned. Half the soldiers are with them. They want the crown, and they want your head. Ethan felt the weight of her words. He reached for a blade from a fallen guard near the door and gripped it tight. How many? He asked. Too many, Isabella said. Her voice was calm, but her jaw was set like stone. They will strike here first. They think if they take the hall, they will take the throne. The sound of marching feet filled the air before she finished speaking. The great doors shook as men on the other side slammed their weight against them. Isabella turned to the guards who still stood by her side. Hold the doors as long as you can, she said. Do not let them through. The loyal soldiers braced the doors with wooden beams. The hall trembled as the enemy struck again and again. Ethan moved to Isabella's side. He looked at her, and in that moment, words were not needed. They would stand together, or they would fall together. The doors burst open with a crash. Armed men poured in, their eyes wild with greed and rage. Steel clashed as the first wave met the Queen's guards. Ethan stepped forward, his blade flashing in the firelight. He fought with the strength of a man who had nothing to lose. Every strike was clean and hard. Every move was survival. Isabella was at his side, her sword cutting through the dark like silver lightning. She fought with skill and fury, her cloak flowing behind her like a shadow of war. The sound of battle filled the hall, echoing through the stone walls. Blood stained the floor and bodies fell one after another. More rebels stormed in. Ethan and Isabella moved back toward the throne, fighting every step. A guard fell at Ethan's feet, his eyes wide in death. Ethan picked up the fallen man's shield and raised it as an axe came down hard. The strike split the wood, but it saved his life. Isabella shouted over the roar of steel. "They will not stop," she said. "We must reach the west door." Ethan nodded. They fought their way through the chaos, side by side. Every breath burned in his chest. His arms ached from the weight of the blade. But he kept moving. They reached the steps of the throne and turned for one last stand. The rebels charged. Ethan swung with all his strength, cutting down 2 men at once. Isabella moved like fire, her sword striking with deadly grace. For a moment, the tide seemed to turn. Then more men poured in from the side halls. The numbers were too great. Ethan grabbed Isabella's arm. "We have to move," we shouted. She hesitated, her eyes on the throne, as if leaving it would break her soul. Then she gave a sharp nod. Together they ran up the steps and through a door behind the throne. The hallway beyond was narrow and dark. They ran without looking back, as the door closed behind them. The sound of battle roared like a storm on the other side. Isabella leaned against the wall for a breath. Her face was pale, but her eyes still burned. "This is not over," she said. Ethan looked at her, his chest rising and falling with each breath. "No," he said. "It has only begun." The hidden hallway was cold and narrow. Ethan led the way with his sword still in hand. Isabella followed close behind, her breath quick and sharp. The sound of battle faded behind them, but the echo of screams stayed in their minds. The path twisted through stone walls until it opened into a small chamber lit by a single torch. Isabella stopped and leaned against the wall. Blood streaked her armor, but it was not hers. Ethan turned to her. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head. "No," she said. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were hard. "They will hunt us. They will not stop until the crown is theirs." Ethan stepped closer. "Then we cannot stay here," he said. "Where does this passage lead?" "To the lower gate," Isabella answered. "From there, the stables. If we can reach the loyalists outside the city, we still have a chance." Ethan nodded. "Then we move now." They ran through the passage, their boots striking stone. At last, they reached a wooden door bound in iron. Ethan pushed it open, and a rush of cold night air hit their faces. They stepped into the dark yard behind the castle. The stables were not far, but the sound of voices carried from every side. The rebels were already spreading through the grounds. Ethan gripped his blade. "Stay close," he said. He led her along the wall, moving through the shadows. Twice they hid as groups of armed men passed by, their torches throwing wild light across the ground. The smell of smoke filled the air. Parts of the castle were burning. When they reached the stables, Ethan stopped and looked inside. Horses stamped and snorted, frightened by the noise of battle. Stable hand lay on the floor, dead. Ethan cursed under his breath and pulled Isabella inside. He cut the ropes of 2 strong horses and led them out. "Can you ride?" he asked. Isabella gave him a sharp look. "I was born in the saddle," she said. She mounted with quick grace while Ethan swung onto his own horse. They turned toward the gate, but shouts rang out behind them. Torches flared as rebels stormed into the yard. "Go!" Ethan shouted. He drove his heels into the horse and charged forward. Isabella followed, her cloak whipping in the wind. Arrows cut through the night. One struck the ground near Ethan's boot. Another grazed Isabella's arm, but she did not slow. They reached the gate, but 2 men barred the way with spears. Ethan raised his sword and rode hard. The clash was brutal. Steel rang and sparks flew as his blade struck. One man fell, his spear broken. The other swung at Isabella, but she leaned low and cut him down with a single stroke. The gate opened as the body fell. They rode through into the open fields beyond. The night air was cold and sharp. Behind them, the castle burned against the dark sky. Flames climbed high, lighting the clouds with red. Isabella looked back once, her face like stone. Ethan saw the fire in her eyes, the fire of a woman who had lost everything but still would not bow. They rode until the lights of the city faded. At last they slowed near a ridge where the ground rose against the stars. Ethan dismounted first and helped Isabella down. For a moment, they stood in silence, their breaths white in the cold air. "You could have left me," Isabella said at last. Her voice was low, almost a whisper. "You had the chance." Ethan met her eyes. "I told you I would stay," he said, "and I keep my word." She looked at him for a long time. Then she stepped closer. Her voice was firm now, filled with something deep. "When I heard your voice in the hall, I stood because I remembered what you gave me long ago. Hope. And now we will fight together, not for a crown, for a future." He felt the weight of those words settle inside him like iron. He looked at the horizon where the first light of dawn touched the sky. The war was not over. The hardest fight was still to come. But for the first time in years, he believed they could win. Isabella mounted her horse again. Ethan did the same. They turned toward the dark hills where loyal men waited in secret. As they rode, the burning castle behind them faded, and a new path opened ahead. It was not peace yet, but it was a start. They would take it together.